on the left, all for the very affordable price of $20. And Lorraine in the back, wave Lorraine, will be selling them after the evening session and also tomorrow morning. So I think everybody in the room should have a Weka shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Put my sweater back on because I'm a little chilly. So we had a wonderful afternoon session. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope everybody got a lot out of it. We have a lot more in store for you. And I'm going to turn over the program once again to Sue Gubing, who is going to facilitate our first session of the evening, which is a panel of members of SHRM. And I'm going to let Sue introduce everybody.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Well, this evening, I have brought to you real employers in the flesh. These are people that hire young people for all different types of jobs. And we thought that we've done this before in the past. We didn't do it last year, but we thought we'd repeat it again because we know that you probably have a lot of questions you'd like to ask real employers, right? As well as they have a lot of words of wisdom that they would like to share with you. So, on our panel, first let me introduce you to people.
We have Deborah Lisitich, who is from infrastructure. She'll tell you what that is. She's the HR manager. And her basketball team of choice to win is SUNY Albany. We have Matt Petrin, who is one of the HR managers at the Albany Medical Center, and he too has chosen SUNY Albany to go all the way.
Boo.
Albany Medical Center has 8,800 employees. Infrastructure has approximately 330 employees, and they will explain what their companies do. And not a SHRM member, which Matt will explain what SHRM is Joseph Macaluso, who is an account manager for the account temps of Robert Half right here in Albany. And he has chosen right now Kentucky. Right? Kentucky people out there? Oh, we're in trouble.
So, in your packets, you have a sheet of SHRM, SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management, of the contacts. SHRM is a professional organization across the country, and I'm not going to say too much because I want Matt to describe it, but I wanted you to see that there's a SHRM chapter in your hometown. Also in that packet, Joe Macaluso will be referring to the Robert Half sheet of the employment predictions for the country. So first, let me go to Matt Petrin. And Matt, if you would just explain to the group a little bit about who is SHRM and what do they do?
Sure. Can everybody hear me in the back okay? Okay, good. We have the microphone on, but we could move it around, but if I could just yell loudly, I can do that too. Thank you for the introduction, and I'm just going to speak briefly on behalf of us on the panel. We're kind of all wearing multiple hats tonight. Not only do we have our professional endeavors that we do, some of us are involved in the HR professional organization in different capacities, and I'm actually the vice president of the local HR professional organization. So we're going to be talking about different things that Sue has prepared for us, but I guess I'm trying to say that we're not necessarily the experts, but we're going to definitely give you our opinions and draw from our different vast resources and provide you some best guesses and some directions to head into so that maybe you can get your questions answered appropriately. So we have a wealth of information available for you, and really what I needed to start with is the Society for Human Resource Management. It is a professional organization that represents HR professionals throughout the nation. They have about 275,000 members. And not only do they have national representation, they also have international representation. And anyone that is an HR professional can participate and join SHRM, and with that they get educational opportunities, they get to network with other HR professionals, and the organization not only provides those things for them, but they also help with lobbying efforts and promoting the HR profession out in the country. So with SHRM, okay, they're our national organization. We have SHRM by state, and that is what we call the New York State SHRM Council, which is who we are a part of. They're kind of a subset of SHRM National, and same sort of thing, but they focus on the state level. So they are representing HR professionals in New York State. And that is the map Sue was talking about, that by being part of SHRM, you're already part of the SHRM New York State Council. Finally, because if that's not confusing enough, we also have local chapters who are affiliates of SHRM National. The local chapter here, of which I'm the vice president of, is the Capital Region Human Resource Association. You have chapters like that throughout the state that you could join if you're interested. I believe there's Long Island SHRM, which is down where you guys are. There's a New York chapter. There's various chapters in your area, and the contact information for these people are on that sheet.
Good. Thank you very much, Matt. As Matt said, there are 275,000 SHRM members in the United States. And I believe in New York State there are 14,000 SHRM members. A good many of them are in the New York City area, but the rest are spread out across the state itself. SHRM adopted about 5 or 6 years ago an initiative across the nation called Workforce Ready. And that initiative required all SHRM chapters to create a subgroup, a committee, on focusing on how can we better educate the next generation that they will be hiring to be ready to work in their workplaces. So many of them reach out to make speeches to schools, talk to students, and so forth. So SHRM is a wonderful organization that you should definitely partner with. You partner with your Chamber of Commerce. Number 2 should be SHRM. SHRM has a member. You can, as an educator, join SHRM. I'm a member of SHRM as an educator. I belong to the Long Island chapter. There's a national dues. Some SHRM chapters or areas don't ask you to pay the national dues, but just the local dues, right? So it depends where you are and what the dues would be. Wonderful organization to network. We heard before this afternoon about it's all in networking. If you become a SHRM member, you basically have access to the database to all the SHRM HR people in the United States. So that means you get their name, telephone number, email address. Maybe I shouldn't have told them that. I don't know. But you have access. So if you have a company around the corner and you want to get in to that company and start developing those relationships, you should be a SHRM member. You should attend their meetings, right? And you should then participate in workforce readiness so that you can truly form a good partnership. So I wanted you to realize that. I'm going to move on to go back to Deb Misitich from Infrastructure, and I'm going to have Deb explain to us what is infrastructure.
Sure. We are a locally family-owned company. They've been around for 23 years. We just dropped the I, so it's really infrastructure. We help large enterprise companies solve their IT problems. So we are tagging, our goal, our vision is to be the leading integrator of the Internet of Everything. So anything that you're touching that has to go through a network, your iPads, your phones, your security systems that you can turn on and off from your phones, we can build, we can install, we can run from anywhere. We have about 330 employees. We're getting ready to expand our footprint outside of New York, which is pretty huge for a family-owned business, to Texas and Boston. So we're getting pretty excited about that. The customers of ours are Google. We are actually very excited to announce we're going to be working with Apple. So very large enterprises building and running their networks.
Good. And at dinner time, I was telling Deb and Joe and Matt about the topic we were talking about, placing our students in engineering positions. All right, and I don't know, Rich, if you have a contact at infrastructure.
don't, yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. So he has wonderful, top-notch engineering students coming out of his school. So let me jump over to Joe Macaluso. He is the manager of Account Temps, which is part of Robert Half. You want to tell us more about Robert Half, Joe?
Yeah, sure. So can everyone hear me okay? So we're a specialized staffing and recruiting firm. We have offices across the country. We have 12 in New York State. We have various divisions within our company. So mostly what we specialize in are any sort of administrative professionals, accounting and finance professionals. Down in the city, in the New York City areas, we do have legal services, so legal professionals, IT, so pretty much the wide spectrum of anything staffing related, mostly as it relates to professional services, nothing really labor, engineering we don't really get involved with either, but anything office related is pretty much what we focus and specialize in. As I mentioned, we have 12 locations here in New York State, ranging from down the city, up here obviously Albany, and across Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester area as well.
And I want to mention to you that on the handout we gave you, there's the URL for Robert Half. They have the best, funniest videos that you could show your students in the classes about applying for a job or what you do in the workplace or whatever. So I strongly recommend that you take a look at those videos because they're free for anybody to use. The other point too is that usually staffing agencies, and there are many staffing agencies around New York State and the United States, usually they're usually working with 18-year-olds and higher for employment, which is fine because our students eventually will leave us and will go on to college or whatever, and they'll be 18 and they'll be able to access the services from Robert Half and the other staffing agencies. What's wonderful, I was telling, I think, my table earlier that in my younger years, I was a Kelly girl while I was going to college. Oh, I got a lot of Kelly girls in the room, okay. I loved it. I got on the train in Smithtown in the morning and went into New York City, and every 2 weeks I worked for another corporation in New York City. I really think that's what led me into this position that I had with Smithtown of placing students. I just loved learning about corporations. So if you have students that I'm not too sure exactly, should it be finance, accounting, or whatever, the staffing agencies can be really very helpful for the students. Many of the agencies, and I just spoke to Joe before, and we've heard from Long Island that they really do look for college students that are home during the summer. So if you have any children that are looking for possibly some office-related type of work, you may want to stop at Robert Half. And there's a trend today where I think, Joe, I think you'll agree that many times companies will hire employees from you. They're your employees, but they are trying them out, and they call it temp to hire.
Yeah, temporary or temp to hire. It kind of gives the, not only does it give the employee or the candidate an opportunity to try out a different company, a different field, but it also gives the company an opportunity to try them out as well. So it's kind of a good give and take, and we're seeing the trend kind of happening where a lot of companies are actually kind of resorting to this style of hiring because ultimately I think will, in the long term, save people some money in making bad hires because they get that trial period to see if it's the right fit or not before making a full commitment to somebody.
Good, good. And I'll go back to Matt. Matt, we didn't give you a chance to explain, as one of the HR managers of 8,800 people at Albany Medical Center, can you tell us a little bit about the medical center?
Sure. We're a level 1 trauma center in the area. We have a 3-part mission of education, research, and hospital care. I actually support about 1,200 of the employees. I cover surgical services, the laboratories, radiology and imaging. And part of my responsibilities on a day-to-day basis is being the front line of HR. So employees have complaints, they come see me. They have a question about their comp or their benefits, they come see me. On top of that, we are to coach our managers and help them work through the problems, help administer policies and procedures, making sure that they're as effective and efficient as they can be, and on top of that, we like to recruit as well. So, you know, if we don't have enough to do with our 1,200 employees, we have to do everything else as well as recruiting too.
Wow,
Yeah.
very good. Now I'm going to pose a few questions to the panel and they will respond, but you will definitely have your own opportunity to ask questions. So think about what you maybe would like to ask any of these panel members when we do finish up. I want to also make you aware that I have somewhat, quote, educated them as to the CDOS credential. All right? Because I know that's a hot topic in this room, that we all want to know about how do employers feel about CDOS. So I really felt it was important that I explained to them the basics of it, and so they understood what was happening, so that at some time we'll probably have a response to that, because I know you want to know, well, what do we do with young people who may not have the high school diploma but have the exiting credential, and what does that mean? All right? So, my panel, what does it mean to be workforce ready? Any one of the three of you would like to tackle that? Go to it.
I'll take it from my side. I work a lot with college students, as Sue was saying, a lot of recent, grads, some couple years out, and I haven't had too much experience working with high school students as of yet, but I have spoken to a few. And in my view, I think being workforce ready is, having, if possible, having some sort of experience, whether it be internship, volunteer experience, anything that can kind of give a person some sort of insight as to what it's like to work in an office or work, wherever, if they're going into a labor type of position, just some sort of relevant work experience so that they can kind of relate to the job, relate to, how to work in a real work setting with a manager, with staff. And I think, to me, having some background, having some experience, in my view, obviously the education is important as well, but I think that I find that sets a candidate apart from somebody who may not have that, because I think an employer is more willing to put their trust and confidence in somebody who has, who somebody else already has put trust and confidence in prior. So.
Good. Deb and
I when we were talking about these questions earlier, I think there's three things, and I'm a mom, and I've taught at my son's school as well, and I think the one thing we try to remind him every day is respect, manners, and hardworking. And I think I'm also an adult who's currently finishing her bachelor's degree, so I'm a late bloomer in the education field too, and I think that's what's gotten me where I am. It's all about hardworking, respect, and manners, and you need to get your foot in the door, like Joe was saying. I think internships are really important. I think you guys building your relationships with your local teachers and your local HR people to help educate them and work and network, I think it's important. But from their level, respect, manners, and hardworking, and putting their best foot forward. And there's a lot of adults that don't do that and that are even well educated. And I know from a workforce readiness committee here in Albany, I'm working with the Autism Society in regards to educating the HR professions on the interviewing styles of our population with autism, and the things that we miss as professionals that I've always taken for granted personally, the eye contact or the handshake, and just meeting with that society and talking with them and knowing what my ignorance level was a huge eye-opener. And I think that from your standpoint, educating us and helping us understand what we can do as well is very important.
good, good. Matt, one of the mantras we have been saying in the school system for the past 3 years is that all students need to be college and career ready. And right now, career ready means almost workforce ready. So is there anything else that you would want to add for talking about the first question about workforce ready? We heard about some personality traits and so forth. What would you add?
Yeah, I think the only additional thing I would add right now would be an understanding of customer service. That's huge in my book. Prior to Albany Med, I worked for Price Chopper for many years, and just working with high school educated adults that come into the workforce and are cashiers, and then have to explain to them what customer service is. If we have young people that are coming up that have customer service skills and know what it is to help a business be successful, I would hire them in a heartbeat. versus some of these other people that we had to work with. So having an understanding of that customer service and a positive attitude to try things and know that, yeah, there are times that I'm not going to want to do what work has me doing, but I'm going to get through it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put on a happy face and get it done.
Good, very good, thank you. No. How about, are there any specific skills, Joe, that when you're interviewing some of the students for your account temps, are you looking for particular software skills, like QuickBooks? QuickBooks? You know, are there any skills or credentials that are like a home run?
For me, I mean, I think anyone who has, I mean, the big thing is, you know, Microsoft Office. If anyone has, you know, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, probably not as much. I don't really go into that too much. I don't know if you guys do. But I think Microsoft Office is key. QuickBooks we see a lot of. If any of any of our candidates have those things, I can market them out to our clients pretty quickly and immediately. And obviously, everyone's going to have a different level of those skills, and but there's a place for every person, no matter their skill level, I think. And I think those software skills are definitely important. I also think interpersonal skills go a long way. For me, like I've had candidates who are, and depending on the position, I mean, I've had candidates who are a little bit more introverted personality-wise. They may be great in, in maybe more of a back office setting. You gotta kind of fit them to what the role is, I think, and I think that they kind of look at us to do something, to do more of that. But definitely interpersonal skills, I would say software skills, and just overall experience, if they have any sort of background experience, internships, or X number of years of work experience doing a certain job, it's going to just elevate their candidacy.
Okay. Deb, when you hire the college grad, is there any particular college major that you look for, or any particular credentials that they've gotten from the Engineering Society?
Yes, so our engineering side is obviously information technology, and I know a lot of local community colleges are starting to work with Cisco on their certifications. So we're a Cisco partner. We love certifications. If we can get someone through another acronym at the end of their name, we're all about it. So we partner with a lot of the colleges in regards to their CCNAs, which is networking, CCNP, to do the telecom side of it. So a lot of the networking coming up now is IT security, so CISSPs. And that's not just cybersecurity, but it's a lot of the audit and the risk. So a lot of like diving into the paperwork and reading it and knowing the policies. Your question to Joe on coming out, though, I can.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
We have one department that we actually work with Joe on. That it's probably our one department that isn't a college grad requirement for our customers, and most of our work is contract based to our customers, which is why we have to have certifications or a college degree, depending on where we're going into. But we have a group that does installations, and they're field techs, and really they need to be 18. They don't have to be college grads. They can have the or equivalent on a skill base rather than a high school diploma. Background checks are required. We look at them, we will bring folks in and interview them, and our requirement is Windows 7, so not necessarily from a technology side of a Microsoft Office suite, but Windows 7 is the big technology that most of the companies are using. So if you can start working with those programs with your students, that's great. We look for people who can travel and do short-term projects, which are 2 to 3 weeks, and going into our facilities, our customers, Yankee Candle, or we work with banking institutes that we set up all of their computer systems and their ATMs after hours. So they need to be well adjusted enough and capable of following directions. And when we interview, that's exactly what we interview towards. So we ask them questions and then try to get them to respond back to us what we just said, so that we know they're following directions. So I think that that's another key skill that is good for them to have as well. So.
Where would the engineer get all these credentials? Are these being accumulated at college or through the professional association? Like I know you do at SHRM, you earn the professional associations by time you put in for meetings and taking a test. So
That, they do not have to have a college degree necessarily to have the CCNA or CCNP, but they have to have the years of experience in a networking or a telecom type. It's a book study or a classroom study and taking the test, just like a PHR, SHRM certification.
And that's sometimes, we say to our students that it's lifelong learning, that you never stop learning. But more important to that is that once you leave that high school environment, it's not somebody who is teaching you everything. It's you need to know how to teach yourself. As if you're an online student, you know the struggle of you get the resources and everything, but you have to teach yourself the materials. That's not an easy task to do. It's really a challenge. And I know there are several schools now, several states actually in the nation, that a high school graduation requirement is that the high school students have to pass an online course. Michigan has one, and it was a career education course. And they need to take the online course so that they went through that process of learning how to educate themselves. So I'll move on to the next question. Was there anything more that either Joe or Matt, I think we covered skills, we're okay, or was there something else?
The only additional thing, and it's not necessarily a skill, but something that I actually work with some of our up-and-coming employees and coaching them, is the idea of setting realistic expectations. You're not going to walk into a new job and be a manager or a senior anything. You need to start somewhere and be willing to work your way up from that. So having those conversations and saying that, yes, you will not be selected for this job, you will not be selected for that job, but you are a great fit for this job, but having the people come in with those expectations, that would be incredibly helpful and helping us not have to be the ones that are always popping balloons. Yeah.
Okay, I teach business ed and ethics to 11th and 12th graders. The first thing I say to them as I'm talking to them is that when you go into workplace, you don't have a choice of who's sitting next to you and who you're going to be working with. And that comes as a complete surprise to them. So everything you're saying is everything that I taught and teach, and all the things that you do, and just keep giving us the information of what you're looking for, because this is what we bring back to our students.
Thank you.
Good. In the course I teach for Buffalo State, in the second course, we read Robert Bowles' What Color is Your Parachute? And Robert Bowles rewrites this book every year. So this was the edition 2015, but I remember reading the edition probably 1980 or something, all right? And when I bought this edition last summer, I was just amazed. I said, oh my goodness, what I thought I knew about getting a job and everything else is completely flopped over. It's turned over completely. It's not what I used to remember. So we use this book in our Buffalo State class. So I bring this up because the question I have to you is, how do you publicize your job openings now? Because the way we learned earlier was just write that resume and cover letter and send it out to 50 companies, and 49 of them are going to be calling you up, coming for an interview. So how do you publicize job openings? Who would like to start?
Okay, I can take that one. We do, and this is something we did at Price Chopper too, and I've seen this for my own job searches. Everything is internet-based, so you're pushed out to a website. You need to access the career page for that employer. Some of them are very similar. You'll see the formatting looking the same, but really you need to go online to their website and fill out whatever application blank that they provide you. And I hear complaints from people when they get there. They're like, oh, I got tired and I didn't want to fill it out. I just want to hand you my paper. I'm sorry. We need you to go back online and you need to fill out the form, and I cannot consider you until you do that. So you got to have them go online, jump through the hoops, because it often is the entry point to all of the HR systems. So although you're helping us by putting that data in there for us, it helps us also do reporting and tracking and things like that. So the paper resumes are not as helpful anymore. So yeah.
I agree. I don't accept paper resumes at all.
Really?
At all. So we put everything on the internet. Social media is becoming, and I do print the resumes, but I don't accept someone's paper resume. Everything's social media, so LinkedIn and Facebook are huge for us on recruiting, which is amazing to me, and it's something I'm learning. But we do the internet job postings, and we will use a career builder or a DICE, and you can fill out their application, but you still have to fill out our application. And I think teaching them patience to get through that is something that I had to educate an adult on today. That it's not appropriate to call me and yell at me because you got frustrated that you had to fill out two. I'm really sorry, but thanks for calling, and no, we won't be calling you back. So patience. I mean, you have to. If you want the job, you're going to put in the effort to get it. But everything is online.
Joe, how about you?
And I can add to that, and we also post all of our jobs online. Career Builder, our website, Indeed kind of sweeps a lot of the postings from our Robert Half website as well as Career Builder. I think they just sweep everything from most of the hiring sites. We also do take a lot of, and this is a little bit different perspective than what you guys see, is because we're a staffing and recruiting firm, we're more willing to accept a phone call, and have somebody, we get walk-ins into our office and someone will hand us a paper resume, and I'll have to kind of stop what I'm doing and go meet and interview that person, even though they didn't necessarily apply online. So although I prefer them go through the normal process, I don't turn anyone away just because, for us, it's just a little bit of a different perspective. And we're always looking for really top talented candidates, and from a customer service standpoint, for me, I can't turn anyone down because that could be a really good candidate sitting out in my lobby, and if I turn them away, that wouldn't be a great reflection on our company. So, and we do also actively call candidates and call different folks who post their resumes. Like you can post your resume on Indeed, you can post it on Monster, Career Builder, so you can actually get your resume out to the public, and recruiters like myself and others out there will actually proactively call you based on the jobs they may have available, some of which may not even be posted online. A lot of recruiters, a lot of other staffing firms and agencies may not post some of their jobs online. So a lot of times candidates will come into our offices and you almost get like the inside scoop of what's going on in the market before the general public knows about it. So just a different avenue to take than applying directly to companies. And then we're calling Matt and we're calling Deb and trying to get our candidates in the door with their companies. So just a little bit of a different approach.
Can I ask you,
Sure.
the online applications are swept, somebody else needs them. Will, if they don't check high school diploma, does that automatically put them into a different pile where they're not even considered?
Well, the postings themselves are actually swept. So like say if I was to post an ad, say I have an office assistant posting and I post it on my website, Indeed actually takes that post and posts it on their website. You'll still, the candidates themselves will still have to click on Indeed and it'll reroute them to the original website, I believe it is, that they were posted on. So they'll still have to go in and apply for that job. But what that website Indeed does is just sweep the actual job postings so that more viewers can see the ad. So they're not actually applying.
But what I'm asking, I guess, is with the CDOS credential, when they're screened, students graduating or they don't graduate, they exit school with a CDOS credential, not a diploma. So they can't write that they have a high school diploma.
Gotcha.
Because everything is done online, or mostly everything now, electronically, does that take that job away from that student because they did not
Because it doesn't filter it out.
Right. Some probably will, to answer your question. I mean, I would probably, for me, I'm all about usually the experience and what they've done and what kind of skills they may have. So I'm more likely to talk to somebody, and even if I may not be able to help them in placing them and finding them an opportunity, maybe I can coach them and point them in the right direction. So I, for the most part, try to call everyone, even if it's to kind of say, hey, we're not going to be the best resource for you, but here's where you might be able to go. My website, I don't think we have a high school diploma checkbox, so I don't think that would apply.
I think it really depends on the employer and the software that they have. I think one little trick might be if they're filling out the application and it's saying, name, address, high school education, blah, 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 and it's just in line with everything else, you probably won't automatically get checked out. But if it's name, address, click a screen, go to another screen, and it has 10 specific questions that rate directly to that job and you're hitting yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, more than likely that will then kick you out automatically, as where the others just kind of dump into a database. And yes, the recruiter may look at it and kind of screen you out, but I think you might have a better chance of kind of moving past that initial screening if it's not so concretely fixed. So you can kind of tell and maybe help some people through that if you see those types of boxes.
I guess we have a couple of questions.
Yeah, I got one, Matt.
Could I build on that?
Sure, go ahead.
Rich wants to do it.
Go first.
One of the greatest issues with the new CDOS credential is establishing credibility with employers. And it's that question that we're all wondering about. How will our students be able to establish credibility with the employers and get hired? But how do we, as a state, get employers to know about this credential and the validity of it and the experience that the students have in earning it? So what can we do?
I think we around the table tonight, we didn't know about it. So you guys need to tell us, or come to employers and tell us that, because we didn't know. Now, I mean, how do you educate and how do you move forward with that? You know, my experience is you make the connections. So you help your students make the connections with the HR person or a store manager, or make a face-to-face contact with somebody so that you can make that introduction for them and kind of build that background. You were chatting earlier about how you built a program and you inserted one or two people as like a pilot program, and the employer says, I've seen that work, these types of individuals are great, I really want to expand that program, and then word of mouth helps to do that. So if you are able to, as the adult, help make that connection, that's one way to kind of bypass the initial screening. I think I'm kind of going off from where you're going, but where you started. But
Matt and I were talking about it during dinner, and I didn't know. And so when Sue even sent the question to us early, and even reading it, I don't think is the same as hearing about it. But from my perspective on the education side is having Sue or other folks who are members of SHRM or the local chapters is get out in front of your HR people. We don't bite, and we don't know it unless you educate us as well. So like we are educating you on what we're looking for. Help us understand what's changing and where the candidates are going to be coming from. Where we may go out to colleges and do internships. There are the junior achievements opportunities where we work with different high school programs as well. So get in front of the local chapters. We have monthly meetings, we have a yearly conference. Educate us, just make sure that we know what's your challenge so that we can start building relationships and partnerships with you the best that we can.
I know in our region, we've been working back and forth with Noelle Murphy. It's taken a while, but we're presenting actually in May to the group in Utica regarding the CDOS credential. There'll be a number of people there. So, and we have a member of the organization sitting on a transition leadership group. So we're making some steps.
Good. Way back in the corner there.
There is a brochure coming out that's been together through the Department of Labor and the University Education Department that will be explaining that CDOS credential.
Good.
It's supposed to be, we heard about it in February, it's supposed to be the spring. So that would be a vehicle in which you could at least have a piece of paper that explains to employers.
Good. Very good. Let me just
Comment on this afternoon when Rich was talking about his students and where he was able to place them and so forth. Every time he spoke about his student, he talked about them in the form of being an asset and not a liability. The students had engineering courses, they had CAD courses before he was placing them out into the employer. So the employer now looks at the individual as this child's coming with a lot of assets. And he's not pleading and saying, oh, please, please take this one, give help. Right? We need to do the same thing with all our students. If we're hearing customer service is the #1 skill they want, well, I'm not too sure what course we have right now that we are truly teaching customer service in. Right? We should sure look at that. And probably the best customer service is coming out of Disney World. right? We should look at their program. And I only mention that because I'm going in 2 weeks. With the grandkids. But really, I mean, we have to react to that. You know, we need to teach customer service in accounting and marketing and computer applications and technology and culinary and automotive because, you know, it's in everything. Right? So it's important for us to make our students assets so they look at them and say, wow, I didn't realize this child could do this. So, any questions back there?
Matt, so I have a question for Matt.
Okay, and we'll,
I hope you're ready, Matt.
that's right.
I'm from Shaker. We've done our internship program for a lot of years. We cannot, and I'm not the only school, all the Capital Region schools want to get into all new med for the kids, and they cannot get in.
Okay.
What are we going to do?
I will give you my card. That's really the way to do it, though. I made some connections when I worked at Price Chopper, and I had a gentleman who worked with disabled youth. And he would follow me from store to store to get these people in. And I absolutely welcome them. And I'm willing to work with them and say, yeah, I would love to have a student worker, or I'd love to have somebody in here. And that's really where you make that connection, find somebody on the inside, and start the conversations happen.
This has been an ongoing.
Yeah.
Albany Med years ago would take some of the kids. Now, most of us in here, what we're going to be talking about in Albany is CEIP. These are typically not special needs kids. So we're all the kids are going into the healthcare field, nursing, LPN, RN, radiology, X-ray, physicians, all of those areas the kids are going, nursing assistants. And, these are kids who are going to Maria College, Hudson Valley Community College, after they leave our schools. And part of the mission in healthcare, and it's not just you, St. Peter's partners can be equally as difficult, and it's the volunteer program that needs to be expanded to a mentoring, a preceptor, a job shadowing program away from the volunteer experience. It's an arm of that. I understand the PPD testing and the physical immunization, all of those things. We're fine with that. Confidentiality is fine, but it needs to be another arm where somebody's coordinating because we're going to need these in the future. And that healthcare system has to be part of the solution to encourage them to come and do this.
Can I answer that?
Okay.
I've got
We got one over here.
Oh, sorry. I've got doctors. The doctors are willing. They're getting, if I will say, stonewalled a little bit on the administrative end.
Okay. And my former principal is on the board of directors at Albany Med, and we're still having issues. So I'm not sure where it is, but it's kind of got to be a top conversation.
Well, I can tell you it's not me.
I know.
Okay. We'll just get that out there.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
It's got to be a top conversation saying to volunteer, we need an arm over here for this branch. Because we could get 100 kids coming in here a year who would eventually be employees, and we brought them in beforehand, and we got to see a little bit about them, and now they're going to be doing this.
Everybody here is doing the right thing. You're here tonight for the WECA conference, and you are networking, and you're getting this opportunity to meet these people. You need to do the same thing in your hometown. You need to join the chamber. You need to join SHRM, right? On Long Island, we have a workforce readiness committee. We have 40 people. We have 20 SHRM members, and we have 20 educators. All right, we work together, so we're talking about these things all the time. You need to be there as a partner building relationships. So,
okay,
over here.
two things. One, with the Albany Medical Center, we just got an approval to go with one of our local hospitals. We did it, we couldn't use the MOA, we had to use a document that went through the legal department from the hospital first. We did it as an intern. We mimicked it off of the college intern portion of it to get through that side of it. It is currently right now with our legal department, and of course both legal sides have to do their blah blah blah. It takes a lot longer than it took for us to get them into a financial place or whatever. But it's in the process of working out, and they're excited about it, and they have people not only in the business side of it, but they have the medical side of it as well that are ready to welcome them in.
And you, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The question that I had though, and I had to like step off on that one to get you guys like there. The question I had was, you all say that you are online and that you do the internet and for people to go out there and do searches and that kind of thing. My question to you is one thing. Do you then take it and turn around and back search them from the internet?
What do you, like, so if I got your
That was my next
resume, do I
question.
take your name and Google you?
You got it.
No. And here, I am very passionate about this as an HR person. I have a recruiter who works for me. I will fire her. That's how passionate I am about it. I do not care. I don't care what pictures they have on Facebook. I care about what they're bringing to the table if I call them.
And
I
see,
can't.
that's-
I can't.
And I'm so glad you're having this conversation because this is the conversation I have with my students. And I tell them the old-fashioned way. You know, like, it does matter, the best foot forward. You only put the stuff out there that you want someone else to see, and you only put yourself in good light. They turn around to me and say, Mrs. Crompton, let me just tell you, this is a new day and age. You don't get it. Everybody's got bad stuff out there about themselves, and they all get
I've
it.
worked for companies where I don't do it, but I've hired people, and the next day that their announcement is the new, please welcome this new employee, I have had printouts. So someone is going to Google them, and somebody is going to tell somebody else. I just personally do not do it. That's.
And then Matt and Joe?
I don't have time to do it. I wish I had that much free time, but I don't. I basically base it on kind of what Deb was saying. I base it on a phone call. I mean, I look at a resume and I make a phone call and I bring the person in and I meet them all face to face. And if they meet the certain criteria and credentials that I'm looking for in a professional, that's what I care about. Everyone has dirt, I guess. Everyone has something that's going to be negative on the internet somewhere, possibly, maybe, I don't know. But I think and I guess I don't know. Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't think it's really that important. And I think are you going to come to work professionally? Are you going to represent yourself in a professional manner? I agree. It's probably not the smartest thing to put negative things out there on the internet. Because somewhere someone's going to be judging you. So I don't think it's necessarily going to help you in any way. Get ahead, but I just don't typically look for it personally.
I think it's an open field, that it's probably 50-50. I mean, they have to be very careful and very polite, all right? So, but
colleagues don't.
Yeah, right. So
it depends on the employer, honestly.
Yeah.
Albany Med and Price Chopper did not have any sort of stance that we go and look at those things. We actually do step far away from them. We don't want to be involved. We don't ask questions. And I think a lot of that has to do with that the laws are not out there yet, and they're evolving in ways that we don't even want to get close to them. In the thought of it's getting into a lot of labor relations, and there's a lot more organizing that people can do on social media. So if we start to probe around in those areas, unfair labor practice. So we don't even, we don't even get there. I mean, we do have a stance at Albany Med. Once you are employed, there is some more conversations about your social media and what you're doing out there. But really, again, you do your thing, but just know that you should not be talking about Albany Med when you're out in the community.
Thank you.
good. Okay, good answer. So let me just go on. We'll finish and we can have a lot of questions. Just I want to add to that one of our SHRM members on Long Island told us an interesting little activity she does, is that she takes the LinkedIn profile and then will paste it into Wordle. Now, those of you out there, Wordle, net.net is that little thing that gives you all the words and mixture and everything else. Well, when you do that, the word that is repeated most in your profile is going to be larger than the other words. So what stands out is what you keep saying about yourself over and over again, right? I thought that was very interesting. I've never heard that before, but here someone's using, the profile on LinkedIn and putting it into another program that has the skills stand out. So I'm going to jump to Joe, and then we'll go to major questions for everybody. Hot jobs, Joe. Robert Half has some wonderful infographics at their website You have copies of them. Go to their URL. They're really great, good for your students. So what can you tell us, Joe, about hot jobs for 215 and later?
So for us in Albany, we're seeing a lot of accounting and finance is like blowing up tremendously. I think that's one thing that they haven't figured out a way for computers to do it. People always have to be doing accounting and finance to some degree. That's also something that we specialize in, so that's probably why I'm seeing the majority of that. But anything executive staff, like admins, customer service, data entry, those are things, I mean, you know, we're trying to take the computers and automate everything, but it's still, you still need the human element in any business. And so for us, I mean, locally, the unemployment rate for accounting and finance staff is tremendously low compared to everything else. People are getting jobs in this area, and we're actually having a hard time finding candidates that are skilled in accounting and finance here. And it's this supply and demand shift that we're seeing is what's going to cause us to want to hire younger folks out of school in this area, because, you know, as the supply and demand shifts, the more experienced people are getting jobs, giving people that are up and coming out of college, high schools, opportunity to kind of step in and be trained and coached in these areas. And so that for us is what we're seeing that's hot locally, and I think across the state for sure, and the country.
Just real quickly, when you say accounting and finance, we know accounting is major.
Yep.
Finance, what areas of finance? Because that's kind of broad.
Yep, so probably not as much locally, but down in the city, we see a lot of hedge funds are popping up. So anything from personal finance to corporate finance, financial analysis, that type of thing. Even portfolio management, wealth management. Not so much here in Albany because we just don't have that market here, but down in New York City.
So what type majors?
Finance. That's actually a major. Yep. You can go into finance. Yep. Finance would be a major. Yep. Exactly.
Sorry, Sienna's big here, and that's one of their big majors here.
Yeah.
Finance.
Yeah.
That's a big program here.
Yeah. So it encompasses kind of the wealth management, the corporate finance, personal finance, and finance. Yeah. Exactly. So that is actually a field study. Yep.
Not at the hospital? Any hot jobs at Target?
I don't know. I'm kind of new there. I've been there about a year, so I don't have a full handle exactly on what our greatest needs are. But and since many of you are probably familiar with the state ed department, we're finding issues with licensing and finding people that are able to get their licenses converted over or register appropriately and maintain their certifications. So we are finding nurses, we're having difficulty with nurses, we are having difficulties with clinical lab techs. That's a big one in that the state has not released more licenses. They say we have enough people that can perform the duties we need, but those people aren't applying. So it's kind of like, well, where are we going to get these people from? And we can't work in New York State unless you have a license. So that's kind of my initial take on it, but I don't have a great handle on it just yet.
Hot jobs for engineering or?
The whole Cisco background, CCIE, CCNA, CCNPs, anything Cisco right now, push it. They're taking over the world.
Wow.
VoIP is coming, and you're all going to be there.
Fantastic. All right, some questions from the audience. Marla?
I have two questions, only because the first question, everybody's talking about the hospital, but many times you have to apply for a job and you've done the application and then you are asked to take a test. What do you use that data, what do the human resource people use that data for? How is it used? And of course the questions are phrased in such a way that they're repeating themselves a lot. So I think that's kind of like, I never had to do that when I applied for jobs, and now that everything's online, you can put anything you want and have anybody fill anything out. So that's my first question. And then I'd be interested to hear and talk to you later about Cisco, because we have a Cisco program at our school. We're a full CT school, all three programs. So I'd really actually like to hear about the psychological test they do.
So we don't do it, but I've been through it, and I know my husband's company does it. My understanding of why companies do it is to ensure that it's more to align to make sure that they're not chief heavy and that they're not Indian heavy. So you don't have these bulls, you don't have 10 people in your department and they're all bulls in a china shop. And they're trying to equalize the introverts and the extroverts of that department, and making sure that, you know, from a management standpoint, they understand their team and then how to work with those personalities on their team.
It is also used as a screening tool. So, you know, there are some companies, Price Chopper is one of them, that does use it. Once you've completed it, you're compared to some profiles, and if you don't match the cashier profile, you may not be considered for that. So it's sometimes used as a screening tool. So people should be, you know, being honest, and it's not necessarily, you know, we're looking for the really smart people. We're just looking for the people that have the good customer service skills, that are willing to go above and beyond certain attributes that they found important for cashiers. So it's kind of like you can't really fake the test out.
It depends on the position, so it's aligned to each position.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And to add to that, I don't hire that way, so we don't ask our candidates that we're placing to do that. We do more skill set evaluations. So any of the testing that we do is like, are you skilled in Microsoft Excel? Are you skilled in any specific area, accounting, finance, QuickBooks, whatever? But my company, actually, when we make internal hires for staffing managers, we actually require that our candidates do these personality tests. So, and the reason why we do it is kind of, you know, to piggyback on what they said, is to align their characteristics with, we have, most people in what we do in recruiting has a specific personality type. And so if, you know, there's no right or wrong answer, there's no, you're not going to fail, you're not going to pass really, it's just what type of personality are you, and are you, fit for this type of role, and you know, if the answer is no, then, you know, and then we don't take just that into consideration. We also interview the person, multiple times, and it's just an extra tool, an extra piece of information that we use to make the hiring decision, but it's not the sole piece of information.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think I would like to, at this point, extend our thank you very much to our panel. It was excellent. I think we all learned a lot. I think we heard a little bit of a message on how to work with the CDOS credential, and that is building relationships with employers. And can't say enough thank you to our SHRM people and our Robert Half person, and that hopefully maybe we could even invite you back again next year. All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much to all three of our guest speakers. Thank you. All right, in just a moment, we will have Cheryl Winstill give us the update on CDOS and everything New York State Department of Education.